everyone, I'm Kevin Ellison. Here's a look at what's going on this week in the news. We begin with news from the Vatican in Mexico. Pope Francis ended his 6-day pastoral visit to Mexico with a Mass on the border of the United States. The Mass was celebrated as a bi-national event with thousands watching across the Rio Grande in El Paso and at the Sun Bowl College Football Stadium. The Pope delivered his homily a stone's throw from the Rio Grande and focused his talk on the plight of migrants. Rome Reports has more from the border in Mexico.
The Pope traveled by Popemobile for about 6 miles from Ciudad Juarez to the border between Mexico and the United States. Before starting Mass, Pope Francis wanted to stop at this cross that can be seen from both sides. He laid a bouquet of flowers underneath the cross to pay respect to all that have lost their lives trying to cross the Rio Grande. He prayed facing towards the United States. Then he blessed the people who participated in the ceremony from the other side in El Paso. This was the last Mass the Pope held in Mexico, and the first in history with a border in between. On one side, there were more than 200,000 pilgrims in attendance on the Mexican border, and over 50,000 on the United States border. Pope Francis used this crosier that was given to him by the prison inmates of Ciudad Juarez, who he visited hours earlier. The Pope focused his homily on the suffering of those who try to pass the other side. By doing so, he made the migrants' plight the epicenter of his discourse.
Esclavizados, secuestrados, extorsionados. Muchos hermanos nuestros son fruto del negocio del tráfico humano, de la trata de personas.
He recalled that migration has become a global phenomenon and a humanitarian crisis that cannot be measured solely in numbers.
Esta crisis que se puede medir en cifras, nosotros queremos medirla por nombres, por historias, por familias.
And as the video mentioned, hours before the final Mass, the Pope, as he has done in several other countries, made a stop at a prison. He spoke with the prisoners, focusing on mercy and forgiveness in this year of mercy.
Pope Francis visited a Mexican prison during his last full day in the country. The prison is in Ciudad Juarez, which borders El Paso, Texas. The visit is very symbolic because the site represents a series of social problems Mexico faces, from immigration to violence against women. An estimated 2,500 women have disappeared in the city since 2010. With roughly 3,000 inmates serving time, Pope Francis received a warm welcome, and he even greeted some of the prisoners' family members. One of his first stops was to the prison's chapel, where, as a gift, he received an image of Christ made out of crystal.
El cristal es lo más frágil, se rompe enseguida. El Cristo en la cruz es la fragilidad más grande de la humanidad. Sin embargo, con esa fragilidad nos salva, nos ayuda, nos hace andar adelante, nos abrió las puertas de la esperanza. Deseo que cada uno de ustedes, con la bendición de la Virgen y contemplando la fragilidad de Cristo, que se hizo pecado, se hizo muerte para salvarnos, sepan sembrar semillas de esperanza y de resurrección.
Jesuit Father Federico Lombardi, the spokesperson for the Vatican, said the Pope's remarks were broadcast to 389 other prisons with a potential of 254,000 inmates watching. In news now from around the country, the longtime head of the Diocese of Rockville Center's Telecare TV station and a member of the God Squad has died after a long battle with Parkinson's disease. Monsignor Tom Hartman took over Telecare in 1981, held the position for 24 years until Parkinson's took too great a toll on his health. Monsignor Hartman was the Catholic half of the God Squad with Rabbi Mark Gelman. They appeared regularly on ABC's Good Morning America. The two wrote several books together, won 4 Emmy Awards, and received a Peabody Award on HBO for an HBO animated special based on their children's book, How Do You Spell God? The New York-born Monsignor Hartman, who was 69 years old, is survived by his mother, a brother, and 3 sisters. And finally in the news, during a news conference aboard the plane taking Pope Francis back to Rome after a 6-day visit to Mexico, Pope Francis spoke out against presidential candidate Donald Trump's plan to build a border wall between Mexico and the U.S. He told reporters that building walls to keep immigrants out of one's country is unchristian. The Pope spent an hour answering many questions from reporters, including a question about the recently publicized letters between St. John Paul II and a woman philosopher. Many news reports on the letters raised doubts about the relationship being strictly a platonic friendship, but Pope Francis said the friendship was no secret and that in his experience it is important to get a woman's opinion when making decisions because they look at things in a different way. He said the Pope has a heart that can have a healthy, holy friendship with a woman. The Pope also was asked about an interview with Archbishop Mstislav Shevchik, major Archbishop of the Ukrainian Catholic Church. He gave it recently in which he said Ukrainians felt deep disappointment over the joint declaration with the Russian Patriarch. The Pope said the words must be read in the context of what people are living. The Ukrainians, the Pope said, have the experience of Russian aggression, and that experience cannot be ignored. The Pope said the Archbishop's right to express his opinion must be respected, especially in this situation. Well, that is all the information we have for you this time. I'm Kevin Nelson. Don't forget, you can keep up to date on Catholic news throughout the week with Catholic Newsbreak right here on the Catholic TV Network.